And we are moving on to Trump increasing support with Black voters. This is wild, but it's happening. I tried to warn people that this was a possibility. Let's get ahead. I think we're going to start with the Hill article first. So I've been telling you for the past couple of months that Joe Biden has been losing support from African-American voters. It continues to decrease for him. He continues to decrease. I want to show you what the numbers are now. Biden is losing support among Black voters in swing states. Now, this is the Hill reporting this. Let's go ahead and dive in down here. The Wall Street Journal let's start here. Sorry. President Biden's support among Black voters in 7 swing states has dipped when compared to the last election cycle, a recent survey found. Now, why is this important? In order to win the presidential election in 2024, you're going to have to win some of these swing states. I didn't make up the rules. That's just how it works. That's just how it works. Let's go on. The Wall Street Journal compared the results of its poll released last week to an AP VoteCast poll in 2020 that surveyed a large part of the electorate. The Journal's survey of swing states found that while 57% of Black men plan to support Biden, another 30% said they are likely to vote for President Trump. 30%. I want to say this again. 57% of Black men plan to support Biden. 30% are likely to support former President Donald Trump. This just goes to show you how poorly Joe Biden's presidency performance has been. Because Donald Trump did not have 30% of the African-American male vote in 2016, and he didn't have it when he was running for re-election in 2020. But here we are now. This is in the swing states. So we're talking about the Michigan, the Wisconsin, we're talking about Pennsylvania, Arizona, possibly Georgia. I really don't consider Georgia a swing state, but they're calling it a swing state. I consider Georgia to be red. I said this about Florida for a long time, that Florida was red. But here we are now. The outlet noted that while there was no swing state polling it conducted in 2020, the AP VoteCast poll found that 87% of Black men nationwide backed Biden in 2020, and 12% of Black men nationwide supported Trump in the last election. The Journal's poll also found that 77% of Black women were planning to vote for Biden in 2024, while 11% said they would vote for Trump. In comparison, the newspaper noted 93% of Black women backed Biden in 2020 and 6% backed Trump. Now, this is really huge because Biden was able to win, or one of the reasons he was able to win is because Black women came out to support Joe Biden, particularly in Georgia. That was Stacey Abrams, right? Stacey Abrams organized, coalesced, and got people to come out and support Joe Biden. The fact that Biden went from 93% support from Black women in 2020 to now 77%, that's a problem. In these swing states, that's going to be a problem for Joe Biden. How do you let Donald Trump increase support with Black women? Now, some people say, well, Sabrina, does it really matter if it's Black men or Black women? What's the difference? The difference is women, some of the women are more likely to support the Democratic Party because of reproductive rights, right? So ever since Roe was overturned in the Supreme Court, what the Democrats expected to see was an increase of support from women all over, like regardless of race, but particularly Black women. What this is showing you is that even when it comes to that particular issue, more women are choosing to support Donald Trump. Let's go to part 2 of Type V and see Eric. I want to show you something else. Because I tried to tell people that this would happen. I was called crazy. I was called delusional. People said I didn't know what I was talking about. How would I know? right? How would I know what Black people are saying in the community? Now, there was recently an event at Chick-fil-A where Donald Trump was there. Now, before I get into this clip, I do want to say some people have misrepresented what this was about. Obviously, the Black people that are cheering on Donald Trump at this Chick-fil-A in Georgia, they are conservative. They are Republican. These were not Black voters that supported Joe Biden, and then now they're supporting Donald Trump. Some people I felt like didn't represent that properly on social media, and people have been calling that out. But I want you to hear what is said here because it speaks volumes. Now, these are students from HBCU in Atlanta, historically Black college and university. Listen to this.
We're not letting them rig
Stop
this
the
election.
steal.
Take that. That's going to make you good and healthy. It's going to grow back that tooth. There you go. Who wants it?
So this is Donald Trump buying food for people at Chick-fil-A, right? So it's interesting. We had the video of Joe Biden buying a Black family like chicken from the cookout. And now you have the picture of Donald Trump buying people chicken at Chick-fil-A. You know, I don't know. It's the chicken thing. It is what it is. So people are like, here we go again, how both sides are doing similar things. I think the difference here is that this was a planned event. But I want you to hear what this woman says. This is making shockwaves around the U.S.
Are you passing out milkshakes?
Yes, you can. See, you can afford to have it. You know why? Because you're thin. Who wants one? I'll take one. Come on, honey. Take one. Oh, you can. So Brian Jack, does anybody know Brian Jack? No. Brian Jack is running District 3. We got to vote for him. He's running for Congress.
I do. I put canvassers together. So all these HBCU students that you see here, I brought them here to meet you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we've also knocked doors for you in the past for your past re-election bid and when you ran the first time. Yes.
Wow.
I was interning for the GAGOP at that time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let me pause here because this is the part where people have been posting and people are saying that, oh, look, this is a former Biden supporter, Black Biden supporter from HBCU supporting Donald Trump. That's not true. If you heard what she said right there, she said she canvassed for Donald Trump. She's doing it now and she did it last time as well. So I don't know why people did not hear that. But that was said very loud and clear. But the message that this sends, and you'll hear the rest of her statement, it shows you that, number one, this idea that Black people did not support Donald Trump in 2020 or 2016 or even supporting him now is false. It also shows you that even Black people that were college students at HBCUs, some of them still have supported Donald Trump because of his position when it comes to businesses. Now, I don't support Trump or Joe Biden. It is what it is. But I've had this conversation with many people. I've also had some pretty heated discussions with other Black people who gave me that same excuse as to why they want to support Donald Trump. They said he's the businessman and I'm a business person and I want to start a business and that's why I support him. And just on that sole reason alone. So that's why some people do support him. Listen to what she said.
Doing a lot for your tax credit reform bill and everything like that.
Well, we took care of those colleges.
Sure did. Much better than Biden did. So I was this is Clark Atlanta, this is Stoneman, this is Morehouse, this is Morris Brown, they all came.
Isn't that great?
So I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump. We support you.
We love you.
Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a hug.
Please
You see this? See, this is what CNN and MSNBC, this is what they don't want you to see. And this is what I've been trying to tell people. Don't assume that just because they're Black voters in Atlanta, that they're going to support the Democratic Party. And not only that, but they're young Black voters. I've been trying to explain this to people. I've been trying to tell people, I've heard this from numerous people in reference to inflation, just inflation alone. We'll just leave Gaza out of it for a second. Even before Gaza, even before October 7th, Black voters had this conversation with me and told me that they were not supporting Joe Biden this time around, and they were considering supporting Donald Trump based on the economy alone. Inflation has increased again.
All right,
Thank you, Serena. That's really nice. No, we did. We took care of the black colleges, universities. They're taken care of now, and she understands it. A lot of people don't understand it. Biden did nothing for them, and I did everything. I did everything.
tell them how y'all been suffering, y'all. How y'all suffering?
That's really nice, huh?
There's no housing.
You know each other. You two know each other. You should.
That's my mentee.
Yes.
I'll tell you.
She knows.
So one thing that I've noticed about Donald Trump, which I think that Joe Biden has not figured out how to do, is that Donald Trump knows how to read a room. Joe Biden walks into these types of situations and he just looks really uncomfortable and awkward and odd. Like it's just, we've seen this multiple times. Vicky says, Sabby is right. I see it when organizing, libs don't want to hear it. No, they don't. They don't. What I've been trying to tell people. And I really do believe Joe Biden will not win Georgia this time around. I've made that prediction and I've lived in Georgia. So I want to dive into this a little bit more. It says how a Black conservative activist arranged Donald Trump's stop at an Atlanta Chick-fil-A. So you'll see here. And it goes on to say the scenes of Donald Trump being warmly greeted on Wednesday by a Black audience at Chick-fil-A in Atlanta electrified conservative political media at a moment when Republicans hope to make inroads with Democrats' most committed voting bloc. Those widely shared moments were days in the making, an alliance between the Trump campaign, local activists, and students at some of the nation's most iconic, historically Black colleges. Trump and his allies have argued he can win greater Black support due to his messages on the economy and immigration. And let me jump in here for just a second. I interviewed Black voters here in Roxbury, in the Roxbury neighborhood of Boston. And I tried to tell people, and people didn't want to hear this. I had to bring them on the show because people didn't believe me. They didn't want to hear it. This is the first time in my adult life where I've actually heard Black voters say that immigration is one of their top 3 issues. First time. Economy's always there. So if you talk to Black voters in cities like Chicago, Boston, Detroit, New York City, you're probably going to hear the same thing. And when I said this, people said to me like, oh, Sabby, don't demonize the migrants. I'm not demonizing the migrants. Because what I've told people before is that our country's foreign policy decisions have led to what's happening at the border. We've implemented coups in these countries, and then people wonder why they're coming here. Why are so many of them coming here? Because the U.S. government destroyed their countries. Because they've destroyed Venezuela. Because they've destroyed Haiti. They've destroyed those countries. 2, our immigration policy that we have in this country has been broken as long as I've been alive. So it's probably been broken before then. And I know people who had to go through the immigration process. It's insane. Some people it takes 10 years. Some people are like 5 years. I had someone tell me it took them 15 years. So there's that too. But this is the first time. So Donald Trump's campaign is saying that they believe that they are going to get more support from Black voters based on those 2 issues alone, the economy and immigration. And I've heard it from Black voters myself. And then there's this. I didn't think I would see this. At one of the more recent Trump rallies in Pennsylvania, there are now MAGA supporters chanting Genocide Joe. Now, that was our phrase on the left, right? Those of us that attended the protests, the pro-Palestinian protests, that's been our phrase. But now everybody's starting to see it. Everyone's starting to see it. See it for yourself.
She is a big problem.
Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe! Genocide Joe!
They're not wrong. They're not wrong. He's
You see
done
that?
everything wrong. Think she is.
So you guys see what's happening? Now we have Trump supporters chanting Genocide Joe. And you know, this whole situation that has happened between Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, I told you I saw a split that was happening among people on the right. Because people are like, wait a minute, I thought the Daily Wire was supposed to be pro-free speech. Apparently you can't criticize the state of Israel. Then you have the interview with Tucker Carlson and the Christian pastor in Israel, talking about how Christians are treated in Israel. So there you go. So now you have people on the right also not feeling this Israel thing. Now, one of the things that Trump also brought up at Chick-fil-A is that apparently he doesn't have to worry about raising a lot of money. And I want to bring you to this speech here because this is a reminder of what happened in 2016. He's reminding people he don't really need a lot of money in order to win. Listen to this.
Much. Thank you. Hey, real quickly, you talk about your fundraising. You just crushed it the other night on your fundraising. How important is that the money not only flows into GOP, but flows into your campaign?
It's nice, and we're setting records, and we're doing well, but we don't need what the Democrats. They pass it around to everybody, meaning politicians. We don't do that. You know, Hillary had more than twice the money that we had. And how did that race turn out? I'm not 100% sure. No, we don't need the same, but we could get as much. We're doing very well. We broke the all-time record the other night, 52 million. More importantly, we take in more than anybody with a small donation, $61 average. And that's never happened for a Republican before. We take in $61 average, and we take in a lot of money that way. And that, to me, is the most important money because those people vote. They're not in Monte Carlo. They're not on a yacht. They're voting. And we love them. And this group of people that we just met is unbelievable. Yeah. That young lady was unbelievable.
Yeah, well, people that might not have heard, you did historical things for black colleges. Just touch on that one.
I funded them long term. They were going on a year-to-year basis, and they were always being chiseled and cut. And I got to know the heads of the black colleges and universities, and they came in, they saw me. And after 3 years, I said, how come you keep coming back? They said, they make us come back every year. I said, nope, no longer. And I gave them long-term financing, long-term commitments from the government. They do a fantastic job, and they all love me, I will tell you. But that young lady was so nice to bring that up because most people forget, and I think it's nice.
Now, let me pause here for a second because one thing I do want to add, some of those things were already put in place under Obama's presidency, just FYI, the support for HBCUs. But even if you talk to people that have gone to HBCUs under Trump's presidency, that is one of the things that they do say is that he did, you know, obviously help with the funding, increasing funding for HBCUs. So they will give him credit for that, just FYI. But it's crazy times that we live in when you think about it, folks. So that is something that he can continue to brag about. But maybe it's not even about Donald Trump. Maybe it's not even about Joe Biden. Maybe it's about some of these voters that are choosing to walk away from both. I want you to hear from a roundtable of voters in Georgia, young African-American voters, and I want you to hear how they're thinking about getting rid of the two-party system altogether. Listen to this.
This November will be the first time Lonnie White and Rokia Garbo will be old enough to vote in the presidential election. And just the second time Malik Poole and Mosin Shora will cast a presidential ballot. None are planning to vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump.
If I were to vote tomorrow, I wouldn't vote. Period. Ideally, I would like to vote third party.
I will vote for an independent candidate.
I'm considering either voting for Claudia de la Cruz or Cornel West at this point. If there is no substantive policy change when it comes to the genocide in Gaza, then there's not really a discussion for me.
Everybody hear that? So you see what's happening now? I was really shocked that he mentioned Claudia de la Cruz, because out of all the people that are running, Claudia de la Cruz doesn't have as much name recognition as like Cornel West or Jill Stein or, of course, RFK Jr. But that tells you that he's been paying attention. He has been paying attention. Let's go into a little bit more here.
He met at this barbecue restaurant in Atlanta. All four told me they were raised and originally registered as Democrats. But this year, the president's handling of the Israel-Gaza war has turned them away.
I think what Biden has done in aiding and abetting in a genocide is just something I cannot stand for.
You're willing to withhold your vote in the presidential election unless there is a ceasefire.
Yes.
And it's implemented.
Yes.
Not voting could mean Donald Trump gets into office. Do you think he'll be better on Gaza?
Trump would probably say flatten Gaza and make it into a golf course. I have absolutely no faith in him.
Would you not say that also the people who are not voting for one of the two people who are the likely people to really be in this race have a role to play in kind of giving the race to Donald Trump in a state like Georgia where it's going to be like razor thin?
Yeah, no, I'll
So you see what she's doing? She's trying to do the Trump fear mongering. And this is not 2020. This is 2024. It is not working the same. These young kids are telling you they are very well aware of what's been happening in Gaza, and this is under Biden's administration. The reporter here is basically just like, yeah, I know there's a genocide happening, but you're still going to support the guy who's, enabling the genocide, right? Because otherwise you're going to get Donald Trump. That's how low we have gotten in this country. That's how low we have gotten. They don't understand. I worked with this generation. So I worked in higher ed for years, and I'm here to tell you, they are very smart. They are very quick-witted. They're less likely to watch mainstream media. They are more willing to look up and research things on their own. So these kids, they're hip to knowing what's going on. They've been paying attention. And I don't think Trump derangement syndrome is going to work.
do you one better, actually. I think that just means that's why the Democrats should listen.
Exactly.
Radical and more tapped in than their peers is how the group describes themselves. Rokia even helping to organize this demonstration in Atlanta last October, calling for peace and aid for the Palestinian people. While they don't speak for the majority of black voters, their dissent poses a real concern for Democrats in battleground states like Georgia, where Biden won by fewer than 12,000 votes. Black voters under age 30 made up only about 6% of voters in Georgia in 2020. That group voted for Joe Biden by more than 50 points.
We are holding their election in the palm of our hands, and they're not listening.
We're tired of just hearing him say these things, these empty promises. We have no trust in Joe Biden.
The Republican Party isn't earning their vote either.
Both sides are just equal, all in all. Nothing is being done for us. If enough people vote third party, we can win. That's my thoughts.
President Biden's campaign has touted his success on key issues affecting young voters, including student loan forgiveness, lowering unemployment, and tackling inflation. Still, though,
I don't feel it. People may be employed, but can they survive off of it?
The federal minimum wage has stayed the same since 2009. I was 5 in 2009. Yep. I'm 20 years old now. Right? I work at Goodwill now for $12 an hour. and cost of living keeps increasing, especially here.
What could President Biden do to change your mind as far as how you'll vote in November?
Call for.
Have you not been paying attention to anything that they said from the beginning of the conversation when they're talking about the genocide that's happening in Palestine? But she's asking them, what could he do? They mentioned inflation. They said Biden tackling inflation. There were reports released a couple of days ago that said inflation is increasing again. There's that. There's the high prices at the grocery store. I've seen them, so I know you guys have seen them as well. I see it every week when I go in there to get a little bit of items that I need. We all have seen it. So they need to stop trying to make that a bragging point to get people to vote for Joe Biden. We're not asleep. We are very much awake.
Permanent ceasefire and actually implement it. I would like us to stop giving aid to Israel.
If he doesn't get elected, that is his fault. That's not our fault. That's not the black voters here. That's not X, Y, and Z. No, it's on him.
It is on him. And I love these kids so much for saying that. I call them kids because, you know, they're younger than me, but it is what it is. But that being said, there was also this discussion on MSNBC about Black women. And I think you need to hear this as well, because I think Joe Biden just assumes that he has Black women's vote like in the bag. Like he thinks that he just has our vote because he got it. So he did so well with Black women voters in 2020. That is not the case this time around. You know, we're frustrated. Everybody who is working class is frustrated. If you're not a part of the top 1%, if you're not billionaire, if you're not millionaire, I'm sure you are frustrated because we're seeing how we're being impacted by the economy. Now, listen to this again. Black women open to third-party candidates.
Did you tell of third-party candidates? Was anybody particularly interesting in communities of color?
I think across America, but particularly in the Black community and with Black men, there is a thirst for another option. I think that people are very much so interested in this other option, or if there could be another option, even if it is not viable to win, to at least send a message, hey, you need to court me. You need to pay attention to me. One of the things that has been a huge mistake in this entire dialogue is this notion of trying to shame or scare Black men by the saying of, well, you're going to go support Donald Trump.
You're handing the election to Trump.
Right. Here's the reality. Whether we like it, whether we agree with it, acting as though this conversation isn't taking place, being mad about it or being in denial about it without addressing the reasons why is going to lead to failure. So we have to come to grips with whether we like it or not, whether we think it's factually based or founded in reality is not the issue. The issue is that this sentiment is very real among the people who you need to turn out, and you've got to figure out a way to address it.
That is 100% on point because you don't owe anyone your vote. And for the Democratic Party, they have really just kind of taken the Black vote for granted. They just know that we're going to support them because the Republican Party doesn't have our best interests at hand when it comes to some of these social issues. But it's even gotten to the point now where people are willing to overlook that and say, no, the Democratic Party really doesn't have our best interests in mind either, because they're not doing anything for us. When we ask for concessions, they tell us that we're being too radical. We're too far left. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that asking the federal government to increase the minimum wage, considering it's been the same for so many years, no one in this country can live off $7.50 an hour. But here we are. That's considered radical? People, no one in this country should have to have multiple jobs. No one. No one. And if you're watching and you do, you need to know that's not your fault. No one in this country should have to have multiple jobs. No one in this country that works 40 hours a week should not be able to take care of their self or their family. But it has become this way because the politicians have been bought by the billionaire class. They've been bought by organizations like AIPAC. So instead of money being spent right here domestically for the needs of the American people, the money is sent to countries like Israel so they can all have health care and they can have free colleges. But when you ask for that for us here in this country, we're told we are too radical. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat. Biden has some concerns coming up. Thank you so much, Michael. Sharpton is admitted FBI informant. I've heard that. Thank you for the super chat, Jean. Marlon says, what did Angela Davis do? Angela Davis, unfortunately, is not revolutionary anymore. This has been coming for quite some time. Whereas old school Angela Davis would have told you to fight the power, fight the system. She also developed Trump derangement syndrome and said, just vote for Joe Biden. Benny says, chicken for president. Thank you, Robert. Love your show, Sabby. Thank you so much and welcome. Thank you, Eric. As Black people, we should be done with red-blue game, given that our liberation fight pits us directly against the American empire. There you go. Vicky says, Trump has already said he would wipe Palestine off the map, so this is hysterical, LOL. Exactly. Trump is saying what he knows people want to hear, but he said the same thing, right? Leroy says, crazy part is they're all going to shut up with the genocide talks once Trump wins and continues the same policy. Need people to break out the duopoly. Thank you, David. The Chick-fil-A clip shatters the MSM narrative. Trump presents as more personable than Biden. How do you think he does that given his class Sabby? That is a good question. It's all about whether or not you know how to talk to people. It's important that you talk to people, not at them. And some people are good at that. Some people are really good at that. You ever notice, like, when you guys, maybe if you were in college, maybe if you didn't go to college, but you went to a party. So let's say you went to a party. You ever ask that question, why it was like that, always that one guy that was able to just kind of walk around the party and work the room? Or maybe it was a guy that you didn't think was attractive and you didn't understand how he got all these girls. Like, this is one of the things, like, how does he do it? Whatever. Because he knows what to say. He knows how to work a room. He knows how to talk to people. Some people just naturally have that, and some people have learned how to have it. Thank you, Septien. The fear mongering isn't going to work this time around. Blacks are starting to wake up. Biden is listening, but it might be too late for him. Thank you, P. Smith. I'll be 69 on Wednesday. You're a kid, a smart one too. Oh, thank you, P. Smith. And happy early birthday. JB says, a lot of us want this system taken down and rebuilt by and for the people. That's right. That's right. Get corporate interests out of the way.